Montessori Grandma. Episode 51. Montessori Zoology Part 6. Second classification of Animal Kingdom.
Montessori Zoology Part 6. Second classification of animals. Written and presented by Geeta Vijaychandran. We will now look at another chart called the second classification of animal kingdom. This is done during the third year of elementary, that is around 8 or 9 years. Before coming to the new material, let us take out the timeline of life, unroll it and find the living beings on the timeline. The timeline constitutes as a reference and all biology can be related to this. We can talk about the first living beings that are unicellular. Plant type of living beings must have preceded animal beings. We find the first ones are protozoans. Now protozoans are now in the kingdom called Protista. The second classification of animal kingdom, here the material consists of a large, long chart. Horizontally has its animals and vertically has functions. The animals have been divided into two, non-chordates and chordates. Vertically, we can see all functions living beings have to carry out in order to survive. Non-chordates were of 7 kinds and we call them phyla and we named them in the earlier presentations. They were the porifera, coelenterate, worms, that is annelids, arthropoda, mollusca and equidermata. Chordates have only 2 phyla, that is the cephalochordata and vertebrata. Vertebrata has 6 classes. They are cyclostomata, fish, amphibian, reptile, birds and mammals. Now this is a chart. You can see non-chordata is on the left and chordata is on the right. Now we can go through the phylum, that is a porifera, coelenterata, worm or annelida, arthropoda, mollusca, echinodermata. They all are the non-chordates. And we have on the right, we have the cephalochordata, cyclostomata, pisces, amphibia, reptilia, aves and mammalia. So here we have only 2 new ones, which is the cephalochordata and cyclostomata. And below that, down you can see the functions. That is, we are looking at nutrition, respiration, circulation, sensitivity and reproduction. So we have these functions to look at and we will compare them to each of these animals you see on the chart. The chart gives a global view of animals and functions. In the earlier chart, that is the first classification, we had seen it was vertebrates and invertebrates. In this second classification, we find that animals have been divided into non-chordates and chordates. This is because it is a more advanced classification. In this material, we are more interested in functions. The strips for functions are in red. Here, please note that we have no orders on this chart as they have already been examined. Chordates and non-chordates. Before backbone, there was a stiff rod. Those that have rods are called chordates and others are called non-chordates. Take the 2 long strips written non-chordates and chordates. Keep the strip non-chordates to cover the top of the first 7 pictures. Take the long cardboard cylinder to show chord and keep this after the 7th picture of echinodermata. All these animals after this had a rod. Keep label chordate to the right of the cylinder now. The second classification chart, as I said earlier, this chart introduces another aspect of animals. The animals are divided into chordates and non-chordates. The 13 animals are sponge, that is for porifera, jellyfish for coelenterate, earthworm is for the worms and annelida, spider is for arthropoda, snail represents mollusca, starfish represents echinodermata, lancelet is for cephalochordate, lamprey is for cyclostomata, goldfish for pisces, frog for amphibia, lizard for reptilia, robin for aves and squirrel for mammalia. Take the long cardboard cylinder, divide it into strips. These rods are divided into strips and are called backbones. These animals with backbone are called vertebrates. The first vertebrate was fish, but we have another vertebrate before fish. Here we need to keep the cylinder, so let's keep the strip rooted vertebrates. Keep strip from extreme right to left so it goes till the picture of the animal called lamprey, that is cyclostomata. Now remove the cylindrical tubes. Before lamprey is Lancelot amphioxus, pointed at both ends. This belongs to the group called cephalochordates. Now let's read the labels of the classes and match to the pictures. Up to the 8th picture, the labels are above picture. Then labels are kept below the picture.
The 6 non-chordates we are considering are sponge, jellyfish, earthworm, spider, snail, and starfish.
Here we have the 7 chordates. We have already mentioned it. And lancelet, lamprey, chord, amphibian, we have the frog, reptile, snake, birds, peacock, mammals, giraffe. So you can substitute with any of the animals you want. Now, please note to continue with the presentation after introducing the chart. And we can do 2 or 3 functions with the children and then ask them to research and find the other functions. We don't have to offer them everything. We just give them a clue of how to do it and then they continue with it.
Here are the 7 chordates we are looking at.
The functions we will look at are nutrition, respiration, circulation, sensitivity, and reproduction. There are picture cards for all the functions for each animal. These are matched to the relevant animal and function box. And let us look at the pictures now. Horizontally, we can see non-chordates and chordates. Vertically, we can see all functions living beings have to carry out in order to survive. Non-chordates are of 6 kinds and we call them phyla and we name them Porifera, coelenterate, worms or annelids, arthropoda, mollusk and echinodermata. Chordates have only 2 phyla, cephalochordata and vertebrata. Vertebrata has 6 classes, cyclostomata, fish, amphibian, reptile, birds and mammals.
Let us now examine nutrition. We will look at nutrition first because children are familiar with food and so they can grasp easily. Put out the nutrition strips that are marked in red and then we can pick out animals. First, let's look at Porifera. These are more advanced and multicellular and have no organs for nutrition. They have openings and water enters through the openings and the end has threads called flagellates which whip the water. There are various situations involved than in the chart we saw earlier. Here, there is absorption and excretion. So, food has to be taken in and waste has to be sent out. The porifera have openings that leads to the external environment and it is through this the waste is sent out. The opening that throws waste out is called the osculum. Now let us look at nutrition of coelentrates. You already know that these are called coelentrates because of the sac they have called coelenterons. This animal is important as it is in these animals we see the beginning of the formation of an organ. The organ is a sac. It has only one opening and this exit point is made of several parts called chambers. Next comes worms or annelids. Worms and annelids are important as we can see a leap in evolution. The red color we see in the picture is not a sac but a digestive tube. This means there are 2 openings. Its great innovation of digestive tube is brought by worms. There are 2 ends, the mouth and the anus. In addition, they also have glands that are used for digestion or transformation of food. You will see the digestive tube on all animals from now on. Nutrition of arthropods, mollusks and echinodermata. In arthropods, They were named because of the jointed legs. They have the digestive tube and so have two openings, the mouth and the anus. They have strong mandibles or jaws that help them to chew. In mollusks, we can see the digestive tube, so that means it has two openings. There is nothing special. Mouth is adapted for chewing. That is, example is a snail. Now, by chewing the food, it is reduced to tiny particles. In echinodermata, two openings, so there is nothing special. That means it has a beginning, a mouth, and an anus. Here, we need to note that we can take a break and do the chordates later. Nutrition of cephalochordates and cyclostomata. Cephalochordates possess a complete digestive apparatus. Example is a lancelet. So now we come to vertebrates which are more advanced animals. The first one is a cyclostomata. They have a particular type of mouth that are sucker-like and can stick to their prey. Example is the lamprey. Let us look at the nutrition of fish or pisces, amphibia and reptilia. Fish. These also have a digestive tube that is a mouth and anus. If the mouth is located in the end of the head, it is called terminal, and if the mouth is below the head, it is called ventral. Most fish have terminal mouth, and fish like the shark have ventral mouth, which is not completely closed. Let us look at amphibia. They have a highly developed mouth and a complete digestive apparatus. In reptilia, these have a digestive tube with mouth and anus and are highly developed. Nutrition of birds or aves. Birds have something special. They have a digestive apparatus and a mouth that is special as it is transformed into a beak. The gizzard or the muscular pouch in the hind part of the stomach that is used for grinding food does the work of the teeth. Let us look at mammals or mammalia. Mammals are highly evolved and has a complete digestive organ. There are lots of glands that secrete juices at various processes of breaking up of food. The salivary gland in the mouth helped to break up food into a form called bolus, which is a soft mass, and then it descends and enters the stomach. In the stomach are gland linings, and these secrete juices which further transform the food into almost a liquid state. Then the food enters the intestines where there are intestinal juices, that is the succus entericus, which give the last transformation, and so the food is now completely liquid. Once in liquid state, it can be transformed and absorbed by the mammal. Various organs make up the digestive system, which helps mastication, salivation, movement of the food, transformation, absorption, and elimination of waste. Now we can pause here and go to the second and third periods. That is, explain how protozoans nourish themselves and so on. Distribute labels, and children can work in two ways. That is, the first one is where the children come as an order of chart. That is, look at the picture on the chart, and the child who has got that label for the first picture should come and keep it. The second way is where the children come in order of their seating. So we are not looking at the chart. The child who sits first has to come with a label and find the appropriate place and keep the label there. Another way is they can work in pairs. They can draw, make labels and their own charts. So they have to calculate the number of columns and rows needed, the names, etc. They can play games in groups. Now we have to remember that respiration is connected to nutrition. Respiration and circulation can be done on their own. Let us now look at sensitivity and movement. In porifera, there is no nervous system, and so we have no picture. They are made up of cells that manifest no irritability or sensitivity. In Coelenterata, regarding nutrition, we saw they started to show signs of nutrition, which meant they have organs. This is the same regarding sensitivity. This is the beginning of sensitivity, and so they do have nerve cells, which are found between the two walls of the creature's body. Let us look at the sensitivity of worms, arthropods, mollusks, and echinodermata. In worms, they are important regarding sensitivity. Here we can find the nerve cords for the first time, and they also have clusters of nerve cells called ganglion or ganglia. The part shown in red is part of the head and not the brain. In Arthropoda, we can see the nerve cells and lot of clusters of ganglia found at ventral part, and so is called ventral part of ganglia. Some arthropods have various clusters of nerve cells in the head. In mollusks, nervous system is made of ganglia linked together by nerve cords. In echinodermata, the nervous system is made up of a ring of nerve cells, and from this ring, other nerve rods lead out. Let us look at chordates now. In cephalochordates, we can see a tube picked out in red. This lies above a rod indicated in black. Children know this as they have done respiration and circulation earlier. Both are dorsal, but nerve cord is above the dorsal support. It ends with an enlargement in the head. Here we are going to look at vertebrates. The first one is cyclostomata, and we see a spinal cord that is enclosed or protected by the vertebral column, and in the head region we see a brain, that is encephalon, which is simple. In fish, we can see they have a spinal cord that goes to the end of the head. It is protected by the vertebral column. Picked out in red is a brain. The brain is divided into two parts. We can see the forebrain or cerebrum, which is not well developed, and also the midbrain called mesencephalon, which is very highly developed. And it is thought that this is connected with sight or vision. Next comes amphibia, reptilia, birds or aves, and mammalia. Amphibia, we can see the cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres, right and left, and is more developed than the fish. As we pass from each class, we can see the cerebrum is more advanced. In reptiles, a more advanced brain with an increase in volume is seen. In birds, we can see more increase in volume of the brain. It has a more advanced and evolved nervous system than reptiles. It can be seen it goes hand in hand with development of care, love, and nurturing of young. This is related to preservation of species. We can see the greater the intellect or intelligence, greater is the love and preservation of the species. The surface of the brain is smooth. In mammals, the cerebrum has increased in volume and the surface is no longer smooth, and that is to pack in volume. In the next few slides, you can see the labels and cards for nutrition. So here we can see the porifera and coelenterata, and I have given the cards for the nutrition regarding each animal. Here are the labels and cards for worms or annelida and arthropoda. This slide shows the labels and story cards for mollusca, echinodermata, cephalochordata, and cyclostomata. Next, we have the labels and cards for the fish or Pisces, amphibia, and reptilia. Here are the labels and cards, story cards for the birds or aves and mammalia. Now, this slide gives you all the pictures of the nutrition of non-chordata. So you can see Porifera, Coelenterata, Annelida or worms, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and Cephalochordata. This slide has a nutrition of chordata. So you can see Cyclostomata, Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves, and Mammalia, the nutrition cards for that. Now, in this slide, we can see the sensitivity cards for all the non-chordata. So we have the Coelenterata, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and Cephalochordata. This slide has the cards for sensitivity of chordata. So you can see Cyclostomata, Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves or birds, and Mammalia. Here are more pictures. I'm giving the pictures of a few other functions. The story cards can be made and printed out through research. Now you can see some of the function pictures here. And the function we are talking about is marked in red. More reproduction cards. We need to sort them according to the functions. This slide, we can see respiration of non-chordata. The cards for respiration of chordata. Here are the cards for the circulation of non-chordata. We can see the cards for circulation of chordata. We need to first sort the function picture for each animal and keep them ready. Now, when we make the material, make the cards so they fit in the columns on the chart perfectly. Research, they can make description cards for each of the functions. This can be researched by the children. So the description cards should be of the size to fit in the chart space. Children can do vertical study, that is looking at functions of each animal. They can do a horizontal study looking at a function of all of the chordates and non-chordates. This brings us to the end of the second classification. Now we need to make story cards for all the functions. If anybody is interested in these, please email me. My email address is given at the last slide. Thank you. Now, we have some more topics to do, which we will do in the next few lessons or videos. We have to look at the third classification of the animal kingdom, that is the Chinese boxes, or as some call it, the Russian dolls. We will also have to look at the tree of life. This will be in a later video. And once we do this, then we finish all the topics in meant for the elementary. That brings us to the end of the second classification of the animal kingdom. Thank you for watching. This is Geeta Vijayachandran signing off.
Montessori Grandma.